What are you seeing out west? And we'll get to Calgary, because I think if I look at the last 6-7 years, if expectations are high on this team, they didn't perform well. When people gave up on this team, they performed very well. And last year, the only year where I don't know there was consensus on expectation. Coming out of the Darryl thing, first year of Huska, there was very mixed bag. But generally speaking, whatever you think of the Flames, you've been wrong for the last 7-8 years if you're trying to predict at the beginning of the year.
Agreed. Yeah. Look, I think it's going to be a box of chocolates for the Calgary Flames this year. And I saw a clip that you guys ran yesterday or the day before, Pinder, where you were talking about Anthony Mantha. And it wasn't just the Gordie Howe hat trick and his response and everything that he did. But imagine if he can throw a game like that at you every 5 games. And you don't have to include the fight. You just have to include the physicality, utilizing the size of the human being. If he can resurrect his game, then, man, does that give Craig Conroy options, because that's a piece that you probably want to keep. But given where the Calgary Flames are, and we know that there's still some internal pressure there to more embrace a renovation / rebuild, if you will. Well, you're getting quality assets if you get closer to that March 7th trade deadline. And Anthony Mantha is more of the player that we saw the other night, as opposed to the player that we've seen too much of in the last handful of years. So I use him as an example because that's just recency bias. I haven't talked to every general manager about the Calgary Flames, but I've talked to probably a half dozen or so, minimal. And it sounds like they have the Calgary Flames regarded higher than most media people. Their forward core is better. That's the consensus that I get. Yeah, you want to put that big question mark beside the goaltending. Vladar has been there long enough, but can he shoulder most of the load there? Wolf, an up-and-comer, most like him down the road, but is goaltending going to be a question back? All of that stuff. There aren't many teams in the NHL that don't have legitimate questions, but I think that Calgary is going to be better than most people expect. I think they're going to keep it interesting this year.
What about Andrei Kuzmenko? We sort of didn't know a ton about this player because Rick Tocchet didn't love him. He had this out of the blue 27-year-old rookie season from the K where he scores 39 goals. You're like, how is this player available? He comes over in the Lindholm deal as almost salary relief for the Canucks. And then once he gets through a virus and a nagging injury, he scored at almost a 40-goal pace in Calgary, which was what he did his first year in the league. So his non-Tocchet NHL career, so basically a 40-goal guy. I mean, this is an interesting decision too. The other wrinkle, he'll be 30 on the first year of an extension if they do want to bring him back beyond this year.
Yeah. Well, automatically, when you look at the birth certificate, you're like, okay, well, we're not talking about a developing player here. We're talking about a grown man. We're talking about a guy who's got a pretty deep resume of playing pro hockey, who was a very impactful player in the KHL. But say what you want about all of that. Unless you've proven yourself in the National Hockey League, it's just a completely different beast. And players struggle when they come from Europe or they come from the Continental Hockey League, especially in this case when he arrives in Vancouver. And he was coveted. We know this. There were so many teams that were knocking on the door of Dan Milstein. Oh, no, we like him, we like him, we like him. Well, look, Patrick Galvin, when he was with the Pittsburgh Penguins, was all over Dan Milstein about Kuzmenko. And they chose Vancouver because of the opportunity. Well, it didn't work out because he didn't fit the eye of Rick Tocchet, as you presented here. But he's got nothing but opportunity with Calgary. So it's on Kuzmenko to prove that he is a legit top 6 NHL player. I just don't think we've seen the complete package yet in what he can bring. That doesn't mean it's a positive or a negative. I don't think we've seen enough yet of the sample size.
It is weird because you see, oh, geez, it's his 3rd year in the league, but it's almost 30. Like, it's a really unusual spot. And I agree. He basically got benched for 2/3 of a season. Like, we kind of know what he is, but it's a really not a huge sample, Rhett.
Wow. The upside's great. I think it's just an asset that Conroy's going to have. I mean, can it go south? Sure. I expect he's going to get tons of playing time. He's going to be a key on the power play. And whether you want to keep him or not is almost irrelevant. It's just going to be an asset that you sign or you trade.
It's very Mantha vibes, right?
And that's where I think that Conroy's put himself in a position. I think the forwards are decent here. I have big questions. Goaltending, who knows? but there's no pressure. I was talking to guys at the rink,
No.
kids are playing hockey. All the fans are happy with how things are. And now that they've had a good exhibition season, they're going to buy tickets and go watch. Like, it's not,
Agreed.
they realize it's not a fire sale. It's going to be boring to be at the rink. No, they're going to compete. Whether they make the playoffs or not, who knows? And Conroy has a bunch of assets that if he chooses to sell, is going to restock that shelf real nice.
Even beyond the 5 firsts they have for the next 3 years. And game of the year, potentially first game. The Vancouver, I don't know if you stayed up, Dregs. It was wild.
I did.
4-1, shut it off. I can't tell you how many buddies are like, yeah, I killed that after 20 minutes. Flames are going to be brutal this year. Like, what happened? Oh my God, they came back.
Oh my God. And I was one of those idiots that turned away because it's 4-1 start of the second period. I'm like, all right, well, this one's in hand, flipped over, watching the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers. And that was like just a tire fire in Edmonton. And, you know, it's like watching an accident, right? So you're intrigued by, okay, well, what's coming next here between the Jets and the Oilers? So I missed most of the comeback. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is a tie hockey game. You know, I literally had dozed off. And then I get an alert on my phone. So I quickly turned the TV back on to see the Zary goal, which was next level, by the way. And now, again, as an insider, you know, you guys watch the game and you're looking at it and you're entertained by how things went. And you're individually looking at, well, how did it come together? And we're analyzing, okay, well, the goaltending in Vancouver wasn't good enough and the defensive structure couldn't withstand the push and all of that. No. I'm looking at it and I'm conjuring up thought bubbles over Rick Tocchet's head as this thing is coming off the rails, and Adam Foote and Gonchar, and go down the list because they all collectively had a slow burn. Because the one thing that Toc preaches, all coaches preach structure, but that's part. We just had the Kuzmenko conversation. Yeah, you either adhere to the way that you have to play within a team game, or you don't play. That's just the way it works for the Rick Tocchet and the Vancouver Canucks. So it certainly elevated the angst around Thatcher Demko and when he might get back into the net. It did that for sure.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.